Hi guys, this is Gregor from PreSonus, and I wanted to talk to you today about PreSonus Sphere exclusive live streams that we're doing every second Wednesday on PreSonus Sphere for our members, with a dedicated chat where you can ask all of your questions directly. And I want to give you an impression of what they're like. So here's an exclusive live stream that I've done just last month on PreSonus Sphere. If you find this an exciting format, then come check it out at a very low monthly fee. Not only do you get these kind of contents and exclusive videos every month, but you also get all of the Soundset content that we make, all of our plugin libraries. You get Studio One Professional, you get Notion, and every other software release that we're going to do in the future. So it really is a fantastic deal, especially at this price point. Give it a try if you like it, and enjoy the live stream. All right, so let's go to Studio One, and let's take a look at the different ways we can install a Soundset. And my favorite way to do it is actually directly from the Sphere website. Maybe I can show you this. So we go back to the Sphere website and then to products. And if you click on add-ons, this is the area where you can read a bit more of context about these Soundsets, what they're actually like. You know, you get a couple of hints, like for example, this is 10 hard-hitting construction kits for Dirty South, Crunk and Bounce, Atlanta Swagger, this one is called, or we have Pride of Kingston, which is royalty-free content. Of course, all of these are completely royalty-free. You can use them in your commercial productions, in your private productions, whatever you want with collaborations. It's your content. And best of all, we're adding a new pack of these pretty much every month. So since we got started, you can see each of these has a PreSonus Sphere logo. That means you get it for free, whereas all the other people just using Studio One would have to buy them additionally. And it's some of the really top of the line stuff here. I'm going to show you some of my favorite examples today. And if you find one that sounds interesting to you, like for example, Silence of the Jams, which is very interesting. It's kind of like a horror-themed hip-hop construction kit, if you will. Very, very interesting. Then you can just click here, and then, it's just one more click to download. And once that download is finished, you can quite simply just drag and drop that directly onto your Studio One start page. And I'm going to show you how that works right now. So here I am in Safari, and I'm just going to go back and make sure that I show Safari here on my same screen, like this. And now, after I downloaded this file, I can just drag and drop it directly onto the start page of Studio One. I hope you can see this, right? And once I let go, it's going to install. In my case, it's already installed, but this is how you would go about it. You can also go to the Studio One menu here, and then to Studio One installation, and then install multiple Soundsets at the same time this way. This would also be the way you install all of the plugin collections, all of the instruments, and the console shapers, the brand new mix effects, and everything else that we have added monthly to PreSonus Sphere. Have you checked out these mix effects yet, by the way? They're so great. I absolutely love them. Particularly powerful if you start out your mix from scratch with one of these. So, for example, we have the Alpine desk, or we have the British console. In my case, I was foolishly trying to drag that to a track, but they're, of course, channel-based, so I have to add them to a channel. Yeah, this might remind you of a certain brand. Not sure if we can name that for copyright reasons. There's also really, really awesome Porter cassettes. So if you haven't tried these out, definitely give them a look, right? But back to the Soundsets. So once you have them installed, you're going to find them in Studio One's browser. You can just open that here in the bottom right. And then you can access it in two different ways. You can either go to the Loops tab and then search by product. You have a couple of filters here, as you can see. And then all of the Soundsets that you have currently installed are going to be displayed in this folder structure. Now, as you can see, I have quite a couple installed. There's so many more. And it's not just audio loops. It's also, MIDI progressions, music loops, instrument libraries. It's essentially your entire production career. You could do an entire production career just with these contents that you get in the PreSonus Sphere subscription. We also have a tag search, which is really nice. So if you're here in the loop section, you can click on the magnifying glass here, and then you can tap a couple of styles. So let's say you want to do some EDM, and you're looking for an EDM kick drum or something like that. you know, this is how you'd go about that. Just EDM and kick. You can also add your own, like maybe I also want to search for a clap. And you can see that it's immediately filtering by genre and by claps or whatever else I'm entering. So that's the first way that you can access all of this Soundset content. The other way to do this would be to go to the Files tab. And this is another approach that I really like, because from here you can go directly into the Soundset folders and also access some of the, you know, more, I want to say macrocosmic elements of what make this sound so great. So for instance, if you have the Deep Flight 1, which is like a very complex instrument for Presence XT, and you access the sound set of Deep Flight 1 through the Files tab instead of the Loops tab, then you're really able to also go directly onto the or into these individual layers that the presets are constituted of. Right? They're constructed of one percussive sound layer, a field recording layer, a modular layer, and a synth layer. And here you really get access to each of the individual layers to get even finer control for sound design, right? But if you want to go and get started right away, if you have one of these against the clock challenges where you try to make a beat in 10 minutes or less, then the Loops tab is definitely great because of that text search and because it's so easy to just, you know, drag stuff back and forth. So let's just explore a couple of these sound sets together, I'd say, unless you have any questions so far. Bookstore, yeah, that's right, Brian. It was quite the bookstore. Very luxurious. Okay. Just signed the Sphere last night. Oh, Grob, that's great. Great to have you here as a brand new Sphere member. Everybody say welcome to Rob. Cool, so let me start out with a sound set that's rather small, because often they're not, you know, packed with hundreds and hundreds of samples that don't sound really good. Often it's 5 dedicated kits and they sound amazing. And then I want to show you how you can extract your very own ideas from these loops. You don't have to use the loops the way they are. As I said in the very beginning, you can just take one element that you like, be it the rhythm, be it the tone, the timbre, be it the melodic progression, and extract that and change everything about it to your liking. So here, for instance, I have already created a little beat. I did this literally 5 minutes before the stream got started. And so far I don't have any sidechaining going on. If I want to do that, I would just add a compressor to my bass line here, then sidechain that to the kick. The great thing is I can just drag and drop that to all my other instruments and they would sidechain to the kick immediately as well, like this. And so forth. And if I play the original samples for you that I used for this, you're going to be quite surprised because it's a completely different melody and everything. So to find out what I actually used, I'm going to go to the pool and then I'm going to right click here on this tab and then locate the file in my Finder. So this would be the Radio Smash Volume 2 soundset. So go to Files, and then I'm gonna go to the Radio Smash Volume 2 soundset, and I used this one, I believe, and this was the original thing that I used. Also very cool, but as you can hear, a completely different progression than the one that I used here. So you might wonder, how did I do this, given that this is just an audio loop, as you can see here, right? It's just audio, so how can I make it play my own melodies? Well, there's a couple of ways to achieve it. And first of all, let's drag in, for instance, the bass line. Okay, so this is the bass line of this sound set. I just drag that in, and once you do that, it sounds like this. So essentially you have the full mix here, but you also have just the percussions of it, or just the lead, or just the bass. And once you find a sound that you like, there's a couple of approaches one that I really favor is to use tap to transient. So you just select this audio event and then you use tap to jump to the beginning of a transient. And then it's really good to have split at cursor set to a keyboard shortcut. I think in the keyboard shortcut menu, this is just called split. So if you search for split, you're going to find it. I have that set to Shift and C, but you don't have to do it to Shift and C. Just make sure that it's a keyboard shortcut that feels kind of natural for you. All right, and ideally, from an ergonomic standpoint, it would be great if it's close to the tab key, because the tab key is to get to the next transient, and once you're, located at the position where you want to make a cut, that's when you want to have that next hotkey available. So I would just go to that one sound that I want, like for example this for my bass line, cut, go to the next transient, cut again, discard everything else, and then I could, for example, drag it into my sample one. This is the sample player that comes with Studio One. Just drag that sample in. And what's great about it is that I am now able, essentially, to play this bass line across my keyboard, or my Atom SQ for that matter. Right? So this is how I could get started with my completely own progressions, but using the tone and timbre of the original. Another approach would be, like, let's say that, I see that my camera is currently not working. Weird. I just noticed that this should be the Atom SQ camera. I'm sorry about that, but it has given up on me apparently. Not sure why that happened. Let me see if I can get it back. Well, this is live. That's how you know it's live. Hasn't happened before. Let's hope that it doesn't happen again. So I'm just going to turn off my camera. Try to turn it back on. I even put a couple of chess pieces around it. Now you can see it. That's weird. All right. Better luck next time. So now you can see the Atom. Okay, I was just playing this progression here. Sorry, back to what I was doing. So as I said, I don't have to use the sounds. I can also just use the melodic progression or the groove from this. So let's say that the lead, I really like what it was playing. I just want a different sound to play that same progression for me. Or I want to change something about that melodic progression slightly. Right? So I would first listen to it. And once I decide, yeah, that's the progression I want, I drag that into my song. And then I edit with Melodyne, and the keyboard shortcut for that would be Control and M on a Mac, or Command and M on a Mac, or Control and M on a Windows PC. And once you've done that, you can actually close Melodyne again, and now you're able to just extract the MIDI directly from this audio track. And this is something that Studio One has always been able to do, but it's mind-boggling nonetheless. Because this essentially means that you could also just, take your iPhone or whatever phone you have, record a voice memo where you just hum a melody, and then once you're back in the studio, you could just airdrop that to your computer, drag that file directly into Studio One, extract the MIDI, and then just assign any kind of instrument. You could also do it, percussive. So if you would beatbox, for instance, you could also translate that into MIDI. And if you have like different pitches, like, then of course Melodyne would also discern between these two pitches. And then if you assign samples to these pitches, you would already have the kick drum assigned at the correct spots, the snare drum assigned at the correct spots. You get the idea. So now that I've extracted this lead from this audio file, I can go ahead and, for instance, use different My Tai preset to play that. So let me just go through a couple of My Tai presets here. This one has an arpeggiator on it. That's why it sounds a little bit weird. Let me see if I can find one without. And often it's also a question of the octave. It's a bit long. Let's see if I find a shorter one. Often it's also kind of cool if you start to layer the two with each other. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Sometimes it's even better if you have a dry loop. Right now there's a lot of reverb on it, as you can hear, and that can sometimes throw Melodyne a little bit off. What you could also do is to go for a monophonic detection. That means only detect one note at a time, because we can hear that this is just a monophonic lead. Right? And then help Melodyne a little bit by saying, yeah, this is just monophonic, one note at a time, and then the detection is probably going to even more, or is going to be even more accurate, excuse me. Right, so. Yeah, very nice. And of course, I can change everything about it. I can change the rhythm, you know, can glue these together. Right, so this would be a way I can turn the original lead into a completely different sound, keeping the original melody and progression. So both is possible, you know, working with the original timbre and tone, or working with the original melody and layering or discarding the original sound. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And as always, if you have any questions along the way, then please let me know, and I'll try to address them as good as I can. Yeah, it's the first time that this camera has failed me like that in a live stream. I'm always, you know, testing these before I get started, and suddenly it was just black. Hope I don't have a hardware failure coming up anytime soon. I'm sure that's something that has never happened to any of you before. Something breaking in the studio? This is unheard of. All right. Cool. So another really cool sound set that I love is Silence of the Jams, the one that I just installed in the very beginning. It comes, once again, not with too many loops, but the ones that it has are so atmospheric. There's such a great, unique vibe to them. You gotta check them out. And the best way to do this is to, for example, search for demo mix inside of the Silence of the Jams folder. So just select Silence of the Jams here in the browser, hit Command and F on a Mac, or in the case of Windows, that would be Control and F, and then search for demo mix, hit enter, and now you get the 5 different demo mixes that are included with Silence of the Jams. And if you like one of these, you can just right click, show in context, and then get each and every sound that this demo mix consists of, and then you can tweak that to your liking. So yeah, the possibilities with that are truly infinite, especially if you consider how many sound sets are included with PreSonus Sphere, and that the content is growing every month, right? So let's give them a listen. And of course, you can always audition them. You can always audition them in your song tempo. So if you have a different song tempo, of course, it's gonna adapt. Right now, it's playing back faster. You can also play it in the original song tempo, and to do that, you simply toggle the metronome off here, and now it's gonna play in the original BPM. I think that's so dope. Like, this is a thing that happened in one of my latest productions. I actually needed a gunshot sample, and this demo mix had the perfect one right there, right? And that was the only thing I wanted from it. So I could just right-click, show in context, and then jump to that gunshot sample. Right, and that sounds so much fatter than most of the ones that you find on YouTube and stuff like that. Also, those are sometimes not royalty free, believe it or not. So yeah, this is the perfect way to go about this. And then I can just drag that into Impact XT. Funnily enough, if I want to have these gunshots on separate pads, this is something that not too many people are aware of. That's super easy to do with Impact XT as well. You can just go to like an empty kit like this, and then drag the gunshots onto the first sample. And before you let go, this is important, you hold down the Shift key. you see also that the text is now going from insert sample on the first pad or this pad to slice and spread across multiple pads. And then at every transient that's being detected, it's gonna cut the sample and then put the next bit on the next sample, and then you can play it, on Adam SQ or something like that. There's probably too many chops right now. But you can fortunately also set your own split points. And if you want to do that, you can simply use the bend tool. You could just right click here and then show the bend markers, go to the bend tool, and then just set your own points. Or use, once again, tap the transient and slice them up. The thing that I was showing you before, both of these techniques are perfectly fine. When you do this approach with the bend markers, one thing that I can recommend is to set the snap to grid to 0 crossings. And now your cursor here will always snap to the 0 crossing of a transient, meaning that if Impact XT is splitting at that point, you're not going to get any clicks and pops at the start or the end of the sample, which often doesn't sound very good, right? So then I would just say I want this one. Okay, see how it's like snapping almost magnetically to the 0 crossing points here, here, and here. That's enough. And now that would give me 1, 2, 3, 4 pads on Impact XT. Okay, so I just go to Impact XT and I'm just going to clear the bank and then drag, hold down Shift once again. And I should have gotten 4 of these. Oh, I forgot one important step, and that would be to cut at transients. That's one more thing you have to do. I'm sorry. So you go right click, audio, and then split at bend markers like this. Okay. So now I have separated events that were split exactly at the bend markers that I set in the beginning. Okay. And now I just get these 4. Right. So this is how it would work with any sample of your choice. I saw a question from Mandy in the chat. Can you extract the melody and the groove also? Yes, absolutely. So as I've shown before, I was literally just taking that melody from this EDM lead, and I was importing a completely different sound from my tie, and that was playing the sound from the loop. The melody of the loop and the groove of the loop, but the tone of the loop, I could have completely discarded the loop at that point and just keep working with it. Maybe I'm going to show you one more example for this, just so it becomes a bit more clear. So let's go through these samples and libraries and stop as soon as we find a really cool bass line or a really cool melodic progression of sorts. Okay, so maybe let's go to Epic Journey, piano maybe. Or strings. And this is going to work the best if you find loops and sounds that are, not playing too many things at the same time, because otherwise Melodyne is trying to extract MIDI information from multiple instruments at once, and that's going to get a bit messy when you try to copy paste that over to just one of these instruments, because then it's suddenly playing all of the MIDI, which might be a bit much. Okay, so let's see, maybe if we go to Japanese Dance, is kind of nice. You can also go to Radio Smash again and then check out these lead steps. And I'm being very electronic here, but of course this doesn't have to be electronic at all. That one we just had. Let's see what else we have. This is a nice example. So let's take this bass here. And I really like the progression that it's playing, but let's say I don't like this bass guitar. I want a synthesizer to play this, for instance. And I'm gonna slow down the BPM a little bit. So to just keep the notes and nothing else, just the notes and the groove, I can hit Edit with Melodyne. That would be Command and M on a Mac or Control and M on a Windows PC. You can also right click and edit with Melodyne this way. And once that's done, make sure you use the algorithm universal or melodic for monophonic material. That means just one note at a time. Once that's analyzed, you just add a new instrument track, you drag that down, and now you get what that bass played on a MIDI track. So from this point forward, you don't need this original loop anymore. I can just mute that for now to demonstrate, and now assign any sound, maybe just the default my Thai sound for the sake of demonstration. And then I would have to make sure that it's transposed a little bit up. This is exactly what the original played. And now I can, of course, alter everything about this to my liking, right? I could transpose that. And the great thing is that I'm not going to have any quality loss, which I would have if I start to transpose the audio around. But with Midi, this is not going to happen. Right? And from here, I could start building my entirely own bassline from this. This is not what the original loop has played, but it was a great starting point to develop my idea from. Also, I could have just taken the rhythm of this and applied nothing else. And this I'm going to show you next. I see a question from Juan. Some solid tips. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed them. Is Melodyne coming with PreSonus Sphere? Well, PreSonus Sphere is including Studio One Professional, and Studio One Professional comes with Melodyne Essential, like an actual key for Melodyne Essential. And Melodyne Essential can do pretty much all the things I've shown you so far. The difference between Melodyne Studio and Melodyne Essential is that Melodyne Studio is capable of doing this for polyphonic material as well, meaning chords, multiple notes played at a time. It can also detect those. That software in itself costs several $100s and is not made by us. It's from Ceremony, so that's why it cannot be included in a PreSonus subscription. But that said, I think there's always great discounts and rebates and cross-grade promotions from Melodyne, especially for Studio One users. So definitely check that out on Ceremony.com if you're interested in a Melodyne Studio version. But for most people, I'd say the Essential is well enough. Essential of Melodyne 5 brings tempo mapping of free tempo performances, meaning you can, make your Midi match a free tempo performance that was played without any click. That is also included in Melodyne Essential since version 5. And yeah, all this monophonic detection, which to my workflow is the most important, is also already possible with Melodyne Essential. And once again, that's what you get with Studio One Professional, which is included in PreSonus Sphere. So the short answer to your question is yes. All right, so now I want to show you how you can extract just the groove, not the melody, not the tone, not the timbre, just the groove of a specific bass line or a specific drum kit that you find either online or in these sound sets, right? So to do that, I have to look for one of my older demos because I have a very nice example there for you. Yeah, I think that's the one. I have to show this in my Finder real quick. Let's see. That should be the one. Yeah, I love this example so much, and I hope you'll like it too. So here I have a bass line with a very cool groove, in my opinion, and I have a pad going on, but the lead sound here is just quantized to death almost, like it's just straight eighth notes, and it really doesn't work well together with the groove of the bass. So have a listen. The bass sounds like this. And the lead sounds like this. So that's doing like its completely own thing, right? As if the instruments are not listening to each other. But that doesn't have to be this way because we have this groove menu inside of the quantization menu here in Studio One. And what you can do with this is just absolutely phenomenal. You can take either an audio event or a MIDI part, like an instrument part like this, that you want to use as a guide. So in my case, it would be the bass line, because I want that bass line groove on my lead synthesizer here. And then you just drag that as your template, so to say, to this groove box up here. And once that's in there, you can decide how much of this groove you want to apply to anything else that you select. So for instance, I could say that the start points of the notes should match exactly this template, like this groove that I was feeding Studio One here. And the note ends, like the note length, they don't have to be aligned exactly. I just want the start points to align. I could even make it so that the velocity aligns. So if you have like a very nice hi-hat pattern with a lot of dynamic, you could apply just the velocity to a different hi-hat pattern, and then the hi-hat pattern would keep the original groove, the original timing, but have that dynamic of the other hi-hat loop that you like so much. Okay, and you can also save tons of presets for this. As you can see, I've been importing numerous drum machines here to get just a little bit of their groove, just a little bit of their velocity, just the way they behave into this digital audio workstation, and make it a bit more analog in that way, you know, just a bit more shuffle and swing with these kind of presets. So once again, I just decide on the groove that I want to use. So it could be also a Soundset loop, and then drag that to here. Then select the event where you want to apply this template to, decide what you want to apply and in what intensity. So in my case, it would be the alignment of the note start points, and then hit apply. And now I'm gonna do a quick before and after. This is what we had before. And with just one click, we got this. Before. And you can see that there's these slight offsets. It's not perfect on the grid. That's where the groove comes from, right? Because it's not so robotically quantized. There's a bit of shuffle going on, just like in the original. And that's what I applied onto this event. And once again, this also works with any kind of audio loop, because then it would just detect the transients, translate that into start points, and that works the exact same way. All right? So this is a very powerful tool. In the end, you can use anything that you get from these PreSonus Sphere sound sets, and you can just use either the tone or the timbre or just the melodic progression as a starting point. You can use everything about it, of course, if you want. You could chop it up with a pattern, which is another thing that I want to show you in just a sec. As soon as you find just one tiny thing that you like about a loop, you can extract that and make it your own. So that really multiplies the possibilities that you have with these hundreds of thousands of samples by, another factor I can't even calculate. Mandy asks, can you extract a groove and velocity from an audio file as well? Yes, absolutely. Yes, you can. You can extract velocity from audio as well. I can show you this actually. So let me just go ahead and look for an audio loop here. So in this case, it would be great if we search for something percussive, of course. So let's just search for percussive, and let's look for a loop, right? So that's something with dynamics, and then listen to a couple of these. Of course, it has to be something where you can clearly hear that it's getting louder and quieter. Let's see. This is a nice one, because it has this really loud transient at the end, right? So just for demonstrational purposes, I think this would be a great one. Just gonna bring that in. It's a music loop, as you can see, but no worries. I'm just gonna turn that into audio by hitting Command and B, like this. And you can see there's all these transients going on, and they should be translated into velocities as well, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I drag that over to here, and can you see that even though I was dragging an audio file this time, not a MIDI file, I still got different velocities here. And now I can apply that to anything I want, also MIDI. So for instance, if I just add a new MIDI track and I just draw in a random amount of notes, all with the same velocity right now. I think right now they all have 80% velocity, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Then I can just select this, and then from the audio loop, say I want to apply 100% of the velocity, none of the note start point this time. And as soon as I hit apply, you should see how the velocity is changing to meet the dynamics of that audio loop. You see? So now I have essentially the dynamics of these transients translated into MIDI notes, which is absolutely fantastic. There's another way you could use this actually, which is, I don't think possible in any other DAW. At least I haven't seen this in any other DAW before. If you have seen this before, then please let me know where. So riddle me this. I have two different instrument parts here. And let me just color code them by their part color. I have this one here and this one. And let's say that I want to keep everything about them as is. I want to keep the notes, the melodies, the pitches, everything the same. The only thing I want is the fixed velocities of track B, which are all at 127. They should be exactly like they are here on the green part instead. I don't want to, get the notes exchange or anything like that. I just want to have the velocities of the green ones here on the red ones, but change nothing else about the red ones. How would you do that in a different DAW? I haven't figured it out. The only way I found, in other DAWs would be to just match the pitches after I copy pasted it over, and then also adapt the note lengths. But Studio One can just do it, because you can just select the template that you want, drag that to the groove box, then say you want to apply just the velocity, select the event where you want to apply these velocities to, and now pay attention what happens as soon as I hit apply. See, nothing changed about the note lengths, nothing changed about the note start points, just the velocities changed. And in fact, it's the exact velocities that you see here. All right. So this would be a way to copy and paste velocities from either an audio loop or from a MIDI part over without changing anything else about this. What is the keyboard shortcut for drawing in a MIDI scale? Yeah, that's an excellent question. So on Mac, that would be Command and Option. So Command would be just the regular pencil tool, and as soon as you hold down Option, you see this little stripe that's appearing under the pen. This one, yeah, that means that you can drag across, and it's gonna add multiple notes according to your currently set grid. So if it's set to half notes, for instance, then these would be half note values. And as you correctly said, they will respond to your currently selected scale. So if I would have like A minor set, for instance, just to show this, you go to scale A and then natural minor, and I would do this, then you'll notice that it's just doing that on notes that are part of the A minor scale, right? See? Here it's leaving out all the keys that are not part of it. Oh, this is weird. This is not what I expected. I think there's a slight... Yeah, I have to start on... Sorry. I forgot to... I confused myself. I have to, of course, activate the quantize scale here. I didn't do that. I was kind of confused right now, sorry. And here you could see there's no black keys involved. It's just the white keys, right? So... that's how you would do that. Command and Option on a Mac, or on Windows, it would be Control and Alt at the same time. Regular Control or Command would give you just the pencil tool, and as soon as you hold down that as well, you get multiple notes. Jerome asks, Gregor, show the best way to slice samples in sample 1 in order to play them on the keyboard. That would be the exact same process that I've shown just a moment ago. So let me just go back to the Soundset once more. So with the gunshots, for instance, you might remember, I was showing you how to use tap to transient and then the slice or split keyboard shortcut to chop them up the way you want them to. Excuse me, that was the wrong button. And once you've done that, you can just go ahead and drag that directly into your sample one. And of course, these splits are going to be translated. So if I just gonna add a new sample one to my session here, like this. By the way, you don't have to drag all the way from the browser over to the track list. It's completely enough if you just drag into the next available song space. I see a lot of people do this, you know, and especially if you're on a really large display that might take quite a bit of effort, it's completely enough to just do this, right? Just do this. That's enough to add a new instrument. And then I just take these chops that I've prepared here, these ones, and then I just bring them over to sample one, like this. And then I can set the pitch ranges for each of these as usual here in the mapping tab, right? I can say, okay, I want to play this sample from here to here, then this one from here to here, and so forth. I hope that answers your question. All right. Yeah, there's so much awesome music loop content. Also, Deep Flight 1, for instance, which is not just loops, but it's also an entire synthesizer within PreSonus XT, just never fails to amaze me. So for instance, we could add one of these amazing presets. You can also pre-listen them first. And once we commit to it, we're actually not importing the audio, but the Midi notes and the preset, meaning we can still change anything and everything about this as we play, right? So that's just extremely powerful. Probably the best if I select a scale here on Atom SQ to make sure that it's kind of, you know, fitting the mood of this particular sound. Here you can really see all these different layers that the sound consists of. And you have total control over each individual element. You know, and if I like just the chord progression of this, but I don't want to keep the sound, then I just assign a different sound, you know. And this is something that I'd love to inspire you with. Try to look past the loop that you're pre-auditioning. Try to look past its flaws, past the things you don't like about it. Look at or search for these very specific elements that you like about it. And even if the tone is completely not what you want, maybe it's that groove that it has that's sort of special to you. Or maybe there's like this one-shot sample in there that you think you could do amazing stuff with. Well, just drag that into your session, extract that element, and add it to your library. And this is gonna get you so much further, in my opinion, than just skipping through, 500 different snare loops, never finding quite the one that matches exactly what you're looking for. It's so much more rewarding, and you'll also end up sounding more unique because you're not using everything out of the box. You're truly turning these pre-made loops into something that's completely your own, that nobody else could have come up with, right? How useful is the Atom SQ for you? It's absolutely useful. I have an entire series about the Atom SQ, both in English as well as German, on YouTube right now. And what's great about the Atom SQ in my mind is that it's not just an instrument or a step sequencer, which might be the first association you have with this instrument, but it's also a full-fledged production controller. I talk to many people who really crave a console one from Softube because they find it so cool that it always follows the plugin that you currently have in the foreground. And this is exactly what the Atom SQ gives you anyway. So for instance, if I have a Pro EQ or any PreSonus plugin or any VST3, VST2, AU plugin for that matter, opened just in the way you would expect it from a console one, the AtomSQ is gonna follow with its encoder mappings. And maybe I could show you this really quickly. If I just add a Pro EQ, I can just, turn the knobs here on the AtomSQ right away, and I'm able to adjust this EQ. Now, if I have multiple EQs, maybe I have an EQ on each of these channels in my song. It would be the exact same thing. So I'm just gonna select a multitude of channels, maybe all of these, and then just drag this over to copy it. Check this out. Every time I switch to a different channel, the AtomSQ is following, right? So this gives me this exact workflow that people with a console one are looking for. And this is just one of the things that the AtomSQ can do. It also comes with polyphonic aftertouch, incredibly velocity sensitive pads. It has a step sequencer that's amazing. So yeah, if I would keep one of the PreSonus controllers in my studio not working for PreSonus anymore, God forbid, it would be the AtomSQ. No joke. All right. Jerome asks, will the Chorder tool be updated? I wish I could tell you something about that, which doesn't have to do exactly with the Chorder, but it has to do with chords and with things that the Chorder can do. But you have to wait a couple more weeks to see what I meant with that reference. I think you'll really like it when you see it. One thing that I am going to show in my next video, and this is also something that not a lot of people are aware of, is that you can actually extract the Midi notes from the note effects. So if you have like an arpeggio that you love from the arpeggiator note effects, but you wish you could just, edit that a bit more in detail, a bit more precise on your own, you can actually do that. And I'm going to show you how to end this live stream, unless you have a couple more questions. So I'm just going to add any kind of sounds. Let's go maybe with a bell sound. Belladonna. all these dad jokes in the presets. I think this is all thanks to Ari Arendt. Yeah, from PreSonus software. He loves these dad jokes. Like the amount of dad jokes in these preset names is unbelievable. Anyway, and as I'm saying dad jokes, there's the ice cream van arriving, and it has this hilarious tune. This it always comes by when I'm live streaming. And now, of course, it doesn't do it anymore. So you have no idea what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I'm just going to add the arpeggiator from the note effects to that Belladonna bell that I just dragged into my session. Right, and that essentially just turns the single note here into multiple ones. But how can I now get these MIDI notes onto an instrument track for further production and for further editing? Well, that's where this tiny button comes in. Input mode, right? Click that. It looks a bit like the pre-fader symbol. In fact, it is the pre-fader symbol. And once that's active and you hit record, you won't believe what happens. Cool, huh? And as you can see, the AtomSQ is capable of recording polyphonic note controller data for further production, which is also incredible. Normally you find that in keyboards with a much higher price point. And of course, this would also work with the Chorder. So if we had, the Chorder in front or behind that arpeggiator, and we set that to input mode as well, then of course we would get these MIDI notes. So yeah, this is kind of the Captain Chords workflow or the Cthulhu workflow, kind of directly built into Studio One. Most people don't really know about it. That's why it's the content of my next upcoming video. But I guess that's also a bit on us that we haven't communicated this more. It's part of the Studio One handshake. When you know, you know. All right, and with that, I hope I gave you a couple of ideas for your further productions. I want to thank you all for sticking around here with this live stream. If you want to see any of the stuff that I've been showing again, just go to the Learn section inside of PreSonus Sphere, and you can rewatch this live stream and all of the other ones as much as you want. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.